Alright, I guess I have to come in here sometime because this is an intro, but I have to say something first before this even proceeds. Hopefully you can hear me. I'm not on my regular microphone, but just the laptop mic. So you might have to use captions. I don't know. But it's 3:23 p.m. Eastern Time on November 10th, 2023 in New Jersey, East Coast of the US. So I put some images up without speaking at the beginning, and there's reasons for that, and I will briefly explain that in a while. But also, there's been coincidences and things happening as I'm slowly putting this video together and going through things of the past footage and videos, and you know, concurrences, I guess you could call it. Maybe things have gone full circle. With me, yes. I think maybe with this video, that sort of insinuates that. But full circle as far as, the rapture goes and the time of the departure takes place. I guess what I'm trying to say is through the nostalgia of putting this video together and the footage and things that I'm coming across. Again, I'm slowly doing it, turning it on and off, and just making this a very slow cook because there's so much involved, and I think a lot of significance in many different ways, and not just toward what I'm saying or myself, but in general for others possibly, and particularly, of course, dealing with the rapture again. And I guess most significantly would be the waiting and things that we're going through in this wait and the condition of things, and it seems very hard. And the cry is, get me out of here. I want to leave badly, everything in my heart, and that's the way that's myself right now included, beyond words. It's been a long, long, long time with me, many decades, close to half a century, believe it or not, waiting for the rapture to happen in the same expectation as this moment, seemingly as the time is upon believers, which seems to be the case. It has been that sentiment and feeling for a long time. And again, with me, it's been almost half a century. So here on this Friday, here I am again after maybe a year and a half of not speaking whatsoever. So anyway, this is how things have been developing as I've started to do this video. Just sort of piecing things together, going through things slowly. At the start, you'll see a picture. I don't know how well you'll be able to see it, but it should look like a horse, a white horse. And that photo was taken from video footage from La Palma, and that's smoke rising from the volcano. And I caught that on camera. Actually, I did some work on the photo a bit and enhanced it because it basically looked just like clouds, but yet I could see a figure in the clouds that looked sort of like an object and a horse maybe, and then I saw that, and to me it looks like a white horse rising up into the sky. And again, that's from La Palma. That was a long time ago, but I never seemed able to really capture it to show it on camera. It never showed or was shown right somehow, but hopefully this time you could see it. And I did a video, I never posted it, of that. Maybe I'll put the link so you could see that. But anyway, you'll see the marker on the top. Well, the first picture you'll see or the first image you'll see are numbers before that I show, and that comes from that picture of the horse. And so it's basically the file number of that picture that's logged in my computer, and it's 125153. So that's the number of the picture. So 1 and 2 is 3, 351, and then 153. It may not mean anything, but let me just, go along here and you'll see what I'm trying to say. To me, it means the beginning and the end coming full circle. 351, and the mirror is 153, and the significance of 153 from the Gospels, the miracle of Jesus, of a final catch like fish, a final catch representing souls to be saved, and then the church is gone and the tribulation starts. So that's what's happening now. People are being saved even this second, right up till now, though it seems like a long wait, but there's reasons for everything. Despite how badly things are getting and our feelings about not wanting to be around here not one moment longer, and that's me. The other image that I put up there is a photo of a camouflage hat, an army hat type cap or hat that I bought a few weeks ago, and it reminded me of the very first video I did where I spoke and shared a dream that I had and how it seems to me to be significant. That's why I put it up there again. Maybe things have come full circle, because the dream had to do with being in camouflage and what it meant, and what I seem to have experienced since that point all through the way seemed to have been prophetic, like a prophetic word almost to me of what I would experience here online with a lot of phonies, a lot of those posing as believers, even grace believers, and they don't have salvation, they're not born again, but they fit in, and everyone is fit in together, and there's no discrepancy and very little, discernment, very little discernment, and that's the truth, very much so. I might go into that briefly about this dream, the very first video that I did speaking on YouTube, and then many videos I've done following that. And so lastly, here's an image, the one that I'm showing on the screen. You're probably wondering why. If you don't know, if you could see it clearly, it looks like a face. If you could see it, it looks like it could represent Jesus. And what that is a photo of a solar flare that I saw on spaceweather.com a long time ago. And they show usually brief clips, sometimes seconds or a little longer, a few seconds daily, and then they remove them. And this is one of them, and it was a rolling camera shot. In other words, it continued. It wasn't just a still shot. It was a ongoing clip, and I downloaded it and I stopped it at certain points, and it formed this face which looks to me exactly like Jesus. As I've explained, if you've not seen the video or heard about this before, it looks like he's holding his hand up and something is in his palm right near his chin, and it looks like La Palma held upside down almost exactly, if you know the shape of it, and would be covering his nose and basically his mouth in front of his beard and mustache as one. So the reason why I even am showing this is because I just searched through the photos I had, and I said, let me put something up so I could show during the video on screen, you know, so there's something to look at as a photo or something. And so what happened was there's two coincidences here. And again, this one has to do with two things, but the number, the photo number on top says 031002, and I'm going to play a clip of this just shortly, but it's March 10th I mentioned, okay? So that's 310. And this video is from a long time ago. And the second reference is that I speak of the fact that I hope this is my last video. That's basically what I said on the last video I made like a year and a half ago, thinking maybe this was my last video. And again here now thinking, why am I even doing this? But this seems to be coming together, thinking maybe this is finally, truly the last one, especially with these cross concurrences or cross occurrences happening, as I say, as I'm doing this video. Seems like it's not really coincidence, is what I'm trying to say. And actually this wasn't a photo, it was a video. I didn't realize it, and I clicked it on and I started listening, and it surprised me that that's the first thing that I said, that hopefully, and I hope this is my last video. So again, is it? I don't know. I don't know if you'll be able to even hear it because of the mic setup, but I'm going to play it, and here it is just for a few seconds. Here in New Jersey. I hope. Hold on, here we go. It's 3:10 in the morning. Now it's Monday, March 7th. Oh, it's 3:10 in the morning too. US, here in New Jersey. Let me start this over. I forgot that. That's what I meant to say. It's 3:10 is the time, and 3:10 is the stamp of the number of the video. I'm sorry. Let me play it again. It's 3:10 in the morning. Now it's Monday, March 7, 2022, on the east coast of the US, here in New Jersey. I hope this is the last video that I ever do. My heart is extremely heavy. I came on here for a couple of reasons. I wanted to go over this again with these pictures, even though I guess I should mention that there's again once more, suddenly some kind of deep sadness that's come over me as I've restarted making this video after I shut it off, turned it on, shut it off, so on. Don't know if there's any significance to that either. So maybe there's a spiritual synchronicity between or associated with the short clip that I stated before, that short clip where I came on and I said a long time ago I was very sad, extremely, and hoping it was my last video, and then feeling that just now, as I had said, as I was feeling a little while ago, I had stopped this and went to eat some things, and now I'm back. But sort of the same thing, you know, is this my last video? Is it? I have some turkey drumsticks warming up in a slow cooker, and especially when holidays roll around, the idea many times, most of the times, is, you know, maybe before Thanksgiving, or maybe before Christmas, or maybe before the end of the year, the rapture will take place. Well, I sure hope so, because to put it plainly, I hope I don't live to see one more day of 2024. Not one day do I really wish to be here to see the coming of the next year. I'd rather not experience that any longer, or this any longer, meaning this existence here in this way. And many people feel this way. You know, life is like a life sentence. That's what it's like. Many feel like they're in a prison. It's a life sentence, not life as it's meant to be. Too many problems, too many health or whatever problem, money, relationships. If you're like me, then they apply to you just as much as all these things that apply to me, and other things known to ourselves that we go through. There's one more mysterious and vaguely explainable events or experiences I had several days ago that I want to include in this and sort of tie it all together, because there is a rhyme and reason for the things that I'm saying beyond just, you know, things of themselves or even together. There's things beyond that. You could call these things, I don't know, the idea is reality patterns. Reality patterns. Simply meaning that it's like there seems to be a purpose to things beyond what we know, okay? What we experience. Like it's planned, like there's a pattern, like there's an intelligence, a design, sort of hints of things beyond us that we don't comprehend. And this experience has to do with a movie named Patterns. So it's the same thing. It's sort of all mysterious and interesting. So I was watching that movie, Patterns. It's a movie by Rod Serling, if you don't know who he is. In the 60s and 70s, when I was a child, I loved watching his shows, the old shows, the originals. I've seen this movie many times over the years, but what happened here is I noticed things that I never noticed before in the odd way that it seemed to me. One of the main actors is called Van Heflin. I think that's his name. Anyway, he was in his office in this big corporation. He has a high position he just assumed was given, and he's trying to reschedule a giant meeting, a great big meeting that they're supposed to have somewhere, and he had to call someone in a high position to reschedule it for him for the get-together of professionals. The first kind of weird thing that happened was he rescheduled it for November 7th. I never listened to the date before, and it struck me, November 7th, and I said, what's today? Today's November 7th. All right, no big deal, coincidence. And there's a lot of things that could be coincidence. I want to touch upon that in a second. But then immediately one of the secretaries called out to Mr. Briggs, and it struck me, Briggs, and then wherever I heard that name before, and then a first name popped into my mind, and I didn't know who it was, but I knew that it's someone that I know or knew, or my first thought was that it's a YouTube channel. Maybe I should check it out for some reason, because it's strange that it just popped into my head like that, the name, and I recalled it instantly. So I made another tab, and I went and I searched it on YouTube while the other tab was still there of the movie. And all I did was type in the first name of the person, and it's a common first name, and that's all I did. And the first name result that came up for a YouTube search was that person's name and Briggs. Okay, another coincidence struck me kind of odd. Now that was two weird things within 3 minutes. then when I searched, I couldn't find any channel like that that was a spiritual channel that I thought it was. And then it came to me that it's a person I knew long ago in Connecticut. And the person is a believer of a certain church that they went to, that I went to occasionally. Now, again, Rod Serling is known for his TV series, The Twilight Zone, and that's what this is, in a sense. There's an episode I've mentioned before, and I've done videos on a long time ago, of a certain episode it's called Next Stop Willoughby. Next Stop Willoughby, one of my all-time favorites. And I thought about this, that I think Rod Serling is from Connecticut. The setting of this movie, Patterns, is in Connecticut. The person I knew with the last name of Briggs lives in Connecticut, or lived in Connecticut. And Next Stop Willoughby, that episode is set in Connecticut also. It's where I've also been for quite a while in the past. So you could say, well, interesting, but not much more than that. Or you can make a lot out of this or make nothing out of it. And the coincidence and similarities between the movie Patterns and the Twilight Zone episode Next Stop Willoughby has to do with an executive under great stress at a job, at a professional job in a big corporation, and the Willoughby person succumbed to the wish to not want to stay in this life, to put it that way. And in Patterns, Van Heflin, I think that's his name, he overcame a very hard-nosed tyrant president of the organization, and he overcame. So there's two sort of, what's the word, morals or lessons to infer or take from this. Now, the Willoughby one, the man who succumbed, well, it shows in the finality, the end of the episode, that he got off this train. See, he was having these dreams on this train on the way home from work, nightmares and so on, that he was stopping or passing, or told by the conductor or whatever that this stop is Willoughby, and if he wanted to get off. And he didn't know what Willoughby was, but he kept having the dreams, and at the end he finally understood that he wanted to get off and enter Willoughby and be there forever, representing that he finally got off the train, stopped the merry-go-round of this existence, this life, and found peace in forever, heaven. That's what it signified, happiness forever, evermore, everlasting. And so it all ties into what I'm saying. That's what everyone who's a believer hopes for: life everlasting, happiness evermore, to be done with this way of this world, of this experience here, this insane asylum, wickedness, these evil ones, both in the spirit realm, and I'm talking people, flesh and blood, evil, horrible. I hate to even call them human beings, and especially here at the last moments of things, when everything is completely crazy and out of whack and beyond any sense or normalcy. So Willoughby represents the rapture, represents leaving and finding that forevermore, that everlasting place, security, peace, all the rest, love, joy, happiness, contentment, no more sight or smell of evil. The new Jerusalem that's coming down to earth as the final abode of the redeemed. Then there's a song that went through my head a few days ago, a nice oldies song, and I realized who it was from. It's Seals and Crofts. Seals and Crofts. I don't know if it's plural. But the lyric that kept going through my mind was, "We shall never pass this way again. We shall never pass this way again." And if you go listen to the lyrics, it's pretty spiritual as far as, this experience right now we're having, and to leave here, hopefully we could get out of here. It's been a long, long, long time for me, for many of us. Even those who've been waiting a short time, a year or less, or a few years, or even several years, even that could seems like eternity. I know what that means, so it's not to say that just because someone is waiting way longer that it trivializes how someone feels right now in the same way. I know, I'm pretty sure that there's lyrics to that song that I wanted to quote or say a few things, but I'm not online, and I'm not hooked up to even the room to go to hook up for it. So I'm just doing this video in another room where I originally did videos, which is kind of odd because about a year and a half or 2 years ago I switched to this other room that I never used before, and I get a good reception. This room I never did, but I'm not online. I'm not hooked up here in this room on the other side. Again, that's another kind of pattern or similarity. I'm back to where I was in the beginning here. It just kind of dawned on me as I'm speaking. Things go full circle. That's the saying. They sort of end where they started off at as a conclusion to things. And that's one thing that I could say. I'll never pass this way again. We'll never have to go through this again. I can't comprehend it. I was going to talk on this, but it's just beyond me. Not just speaking off the top of my head, like, trivially. I mean, I literally can't conceive what it would be like to actually be out of this life, let alone to say that there's a heaven or a complete utopia or happiness after that. I can't relate to that, not in the least bit. I said that in one of the videos, maybe one of the last videos I did, although it was like a year and a half or 2 years ago. I mentioned that, it's just issues in me that I just am not capable of knowing or experiencing. It's simple as that. Not that I don't want to, or I'm trying to, not be a part of things or whatever, including people, including Christians. It's just the way it is. I'll just leave it at that. It's not that I'm trying to doubt or to not have hope. It's just that you have to have the ability to hope to begin with, in a natural sense. So to me, this life has been like prison doors that I went through, and the door was shut on me, and the key was locked. And as long as I'm still here, that's unfortunately the way it's going to be, and the way maybe a great deal of you feel right now. So in conclusion about these so-called synchronicities, they could have meaning, they may not have meaning, they're mysterious, not putting too much emphasis where it's undue in these things. I've said a lot of times with dates and so on, like the date I said was mentioned in that movie, November 7th, so you could start thinking, well, today's November 7th. these others online are saying November 7th this is going to happen and that's going to happen, but then things don't happen and people get disappointed badly. And then briefly about signs and wonders and so on. Um, it's not a measure of one's spirituality. I think that's very important. Others feel like they've been left out. Why don't I have these dreams? Why? And so they think that they're not as spiritual. There's something wrong. They're not quite of the same caliber as others who are having all these, spiritual experiences and signs and wonders. So they start measuring themselves, their spiritual value or worth or whatever, against that backdrop of, those signs or some ministry that they say they don't have a ministry. Why don't they? Maybe something's wrong with them. Maybe they're not good enough or whatever. I mean, it's been quite an experience for me to have been on YouTube, to have what has been called a ministry here, especially in the past. Very little, obviously, now. None, really. So there's a reminiscence that I have, some good, some not so good, some not good at all, of what I've experienced here, making videos. Okay, so maybe this is the last thing that I'm going to mention before I close it out here. Maybe one more time for the last time. And that gets back to the hat that I showed at the very beginning. That camouflage army type woolen hat that I showed. And why I showed it is because it reminded me of a dream that I had in the very first video I spoke on YouTube about, on my very first video that I did, and the significance of that dream. I'll try to make it quick. In the dream, I was standing there. There was like a field. It was an open area. I had on what looked like army camouflage gear. The camouflage pants and top and so on. And I had a gun, and I'm looking out on this field, and the first thing that happened was a general exited from a tent right near me, like several feet away, and I knew he was there for a purpose, and that purpose was to appoint me, to knight me. And the stories and the history of knights, where they would be knighted for a certain task or job or performance, or to go to war, and they would be knighted. They would be empowered and shown to be the one to do this, to lead the way. That's exactly how I felt. And I immediately went to my knees, and this overpowering sense came over me, like, yes, I'll do whatever you want me to do, and really heartfelt, and my face was toward the ground. And I think this general basically knighted me with the sword, and I think he started reading something like, I don't know what he said, will you do this? Or he read some kind of statute or something, and I agreed, oh, yes, I'll do whatever you want me to do, like that kind of thing, so wholeheartedly. Then I remember I got up and stood and looked toward the field, and before me was this scene, this horrible scene of soldiers, starting to run towards each other to fight with bayonets, but it was like old time, like Civil War kind of era. And they were heading towards each other. And the first thing I thought was, you can't tell who's who because their uniforms all look the same, but yet they're fighting each other. And I thought, that's insane. Who's fighting who? Yet I knew that I was on a side, one of the sides. I was a soldier on one of the armies, but it was unclear which army was which and who I was fighting for. So it was gruesome. I saw, bayonets laying into people and shooting and everything. I was like, oh man, this is crazy. And so I stood there and I thought, I'm in camouflage. What do I do? Where do I go? All I thought was I have to try to go out there and help them, help someone, help my side. But yet I was hesitant because it was so gruesome. And I was thinking to myself, I'm not like that. If I go out there, I'm just going to probably get butchered. Not that I want to, but anyway, what happened was from where I was standing, I tried to fire the gun and it wouldn't fire. A couple times I tried to fire it, it wouldn't fire. And the next thing that happened was I noticed that our side was routing the other side who fled, and I said, oh, we routed them, we won. I mean, I knew it was the side I was on, but the uniforms, still, they had on their uniforms. That didn't signify much to me, but I knew that that was the army that I was on, the side. So then the oddest thing happened. I turned around, and next to me was this cart, like an ox cart or old-time cart where people get in it, a wagon, a little wagon where they sit in. A lot of people could sit in it, and then they're taken away. They go where they have to go. They're transported. And so the odd thing was, all these soldiers and all these people who had just fought each other were sitting together, perfectly calm, just staring straight ahead, silent, like nothing had happened, and they're on the same team, that they're one, that there's no difference between them. Then I turned around again, and the general was walking around near us, and he's looking at our guns, our bayonets. He said, the bayonets on the guns, he said that these swords need to be sharpened, sharpen them up, or something like that. And so he just walked by. Now, one thing I didn't mention was, when I was standing there and I didn't run out there, I was thinking maybe the general would court-martial me or for treason for not engaging in battle or something. And when he was walking by inspecting the swords and saying these swords need to be sharpened, meaning, well, the sword is the word of God in those terms spiritually. But I knew he knew what I was thinking. I knew he knew that I was hesitant and I wasn't really wanting to go out there, but I did try to shoot at least from afar until I ran out there. I was sort of starting to move outward, I think. But he let it go. It's like it didn't register to him that to hold that against me, like it didn't happen. Like he really didn't expect me to, and he knew what I could do and what I couldn't do and so on. So, I mean, without getting too much into this, and I've done many videos, the whole gamut with relating to grace and what I've discerned as Gnostic grace. And I think that's exactly what's pretty much the story of this, with everyone sitting in that cart together after fighting, and then it's like they're expected to be or act like they're all one, and no one can tell the difference because there's phonies. There's phonies even in, of course, the works salvationists. They're phonies, period, because they're in works. They try to earn their salvation. What I've termed the repentance gospel, thinking that their repentance is going to make themselves holy, their good deeds, their, not doing quote-unquote willful sins as opposed to unwillful sins, all this nonsense. So, I mean, I've batted heads with the self-righteous fiercely, but also it ended up with the so-called many so-called grace believers, and I still hold to my gun, like in the dream, that this is the case. Either you're born again spiritually, either you're saved, either you have the new birth, you're transformed, you have the fruits of, you know, Jesus. Jesus is the fruits. It's not that we're looking at our fruits. Our fruits are rotten. They can be even as believers. But his fruits will be there because Jesus is there. Is he there? No, they don't accept any of it. They don't accept it yet. They're batting heads and arguing that they're grace believers. And so, you know, it's like, well, what's the difference then? I believe in grace, you believe in grace. Let's all get together. Why are we fighting like in the stream together when we're all on the same side, when we're not? One is spiritual death, one is spiritual life. It's as plain as that. I mean, I didn't expect to get that particular hat maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. But there wasn't much choice locally, and there's very, very little around. It's pretty desolate place around here to try to buy things. But I kind of liked it, and immediately it reminded me of that dream of being in camouflage. So here I am. I mean, I'm doing this video and saying that sort of indicates to me sort of things come in full circle, at least to me. I mean, I was going to mention some things that I've been going through for a long time. I go through and I still am going through, but I won't. This is pretty long now, this video. But one of the things that I can mention is that in order for me just to survive, to exist, to buy food, I've had to ride a bike pretty far all the time, just like 3 times a week or more, just to get food, whatever I could handle to carry. Now, to put this into proper perspective, you know, I've been doing this about 8 years, okay, without a vehicle, in a pretty isolated area. Like I said, I have to go far just to go buy food. And I just figured it out roughly that over these years I've made 1,000, yeah, I said that right, 1,000 trips, not just one way, 1,000 two-way trips of about, I'll call it 8 to 12 miles per trip. So I figure that out roughly to be, oh, what do you say, 10,000 miles? Yeah, 10,000 miles I've ridden. That's just one thing I've had to deal with over these years. And 10,000 miles is roughly from the Jersey Shore on the Atlantic coast, right around close to that area where I live, and the Pacific Ocean, let's say of California, on the beach and back. So I've in essence ridden over the years from the Jersey Shore to the shores of California to the beach and back to the beach of New Jersey, at least. And that doesn't include any other trips or things that I've done where I've used the bike. And I'm in my 60s, my mid 60s, and it's too much. I mean, everything's too much. Not just that anymore, but just everything there is in the situation. Everything's a chore and a hassle and inconvenience for certain reasons of things that I don't have, and usually don't have the energy or drive to even do. And things that happen always seem to happen, continue to happen. I mean, totally major health problems since I was a small child, and I mean major in every kind that there are, okay, ever since then. Now, I've learned an awful lot, a great deal over the years up to this time, and I can handle it. But, I mean, there's so much need, there's so much money that I have to have in order for my supplies but I do. I get by, but I'm sick of it. I'm sick of everything, really. Health, riding, the things I have to do that my hands are tied here for certain reasons, and I don't have certain things, or where I live and the situation where I live and so on, all that kind of stuff. The past, guilt over the past. And it's not like a normal guilt where somebody could make it into a big spiritual thing and say, blah, 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 about not having guilt and all this. It's not that at all. It's something completely different. Or regrets or whatever, constantly thinking of things of the past and making spiritual things out of things that aren't and don't help anyone. And many people who say they're believers end up doing that to other believers, and they may not think they are, and they may think they're doing the opposite and want to help, but they are doing the opposite by spiritualizing things that they have no idea over, and I was going to say have no business in, or to speak about, and that sounds rough, but basically that's what it is, and it does more harm than good, So, I mean, I guess I'm done. I'll probably pause this and see if there's other things that I could think of that I could say here. I guess the traumatization of current events in the news all the time, always on edge, always looking out, saying, oh, did something happen? Did something happen today? Is something going to happen tomorrow? Something going to happen on this day, this date, or whatever? And so there's that constant kind of, I don't know, concern, burden, looking out, threat, possibility of, day in and day out, and no one needs to live under that, especially when most of that is manufactured and meant to cause psychological, I guess, fear, trauma, those kind of things to people, to keep them in that state of mind and worry and fear and hopelessness and weakness, feeling incompetent, impotent to do anything about the evil and those maniacs ruining and running the world right into the ground, right into hell, along with them following along. And that's not too far off either. And they'll be gone. I don't know if they know it. Maybe they do. But they're in for a big surprise. So I guess in closing this, the appropriate thing to say would be next stop, Willoughby.